The boss arrived before sunrise, long before the dining room lights turned warm and bright. He parked on the far side of the lot so no one would guess who he was. He wore a plain gray hoodie, simple jeans, and a pair of old sneakers that looked a little too clean for a kitchen. He had shaved his usual beard and put on a pair of cheap glasses. In the mirror, he looked like a regular man on his first day of work, not the leader of a large restaurant group. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of his new name for the week. He would be Ayan, a trainee, eager and quiet. No one should know he was the boss. He wanted to see the truth with his own eyes. When he pushed open the back door, the air felt different from any office he knew. It was cool and smelled of onions, garlic, and a faint tang of metal from the racks and pans. A low radio hummed somewhere near the walk-in refrigerator. The kitchen was not fully awake yet, but it was stretching. 2 prep cooks stood at a stainless steel table, tying on aprons and fixing hairnets. A dish machine clicked on and hissed. He felt small for a moment, like a student in a very big school. A woman with bright eyes and a calm face walked over. Her name tag read, Maya, prep lead. She gave him a quick smile and said, "You must be the new helper. You're early. Good sign." She handed him a clean apron and a pair of gloves. "I'll show you around before the rush," she said. Her voice was friendly but efficient. She had done this many times. He followed as Maya gave him the tour. "This is the dry storage," she said, opening a metal door to rows of spices, bags of flour, and tall stacks of canned tomatoes. "That's the walk-in. Label everything, date everything." She pointed to shelves of greens, boxes of lemons, and large tubs of house-made sauces. The cold air moved around them like a quiet river. He felt the small sting of the cold on his cheeks and thought about how far this was from the boardroom, where the air was always the same and the water pitcher always full. Back by the prep table, a man was sharpening a knife with slow, steady strokes. He glanced up and nodded. "I'm Kareem," he said, and then he returned to the work with a focus that made the boss a little nervous. The metal sang softly with each pass. "We like our knives ready for the day," Kareem said. "Makes everything faster and safer." The boss made a mental note. Sharp tools, fast hands, clear minds. Maya set a cutting board in front of him, placed a pile of onions on one side and an empty container on the other, and said, "We're starting simple. Quarter, peel, slice. Keep your fingers back. Watch me first." Her hands were grace and speed. In a handful of seconds, the onion was a neat pile of even slices. The boss copied her movements, slow at first, careful with each cut. The onion smell rose, sweet and strong, and made his eyes water. He blinked and tried not to rub them with his glove. Maya laughed gently. "Everyone cries on day one. It's the onions," she said, and then, softer, "and the pace." He found the rhythm. Pick up, peel, slice, slide the pieces into the container. Repeat. Every few minutes, Maya checked his board and adjusted his grip. Kareem passed by and showed him how to curl his fingers to protect them. "Knuckles forward," Kareem said, tapping his own fingers. "Let the blade rest against them." The boss appreciated how they taught him with patience. He wanted to remember this feeling and make sure every trainee across the company felt the same welcome. More people arrived, filling the kitchen with energy. Someone wheeled in a cart with produce. Someone else stacked clean pans by the range. The printer at the expo station chirped once as a test, a staccato sound that hinted at the chaos to come. The boss looked up and tried to match faces with the names he had seen in reports: prep lead, line cook, dishwasher, shift supervisor. Reports were just numbers and short notes. Here, each person had a voice, a walk, a way of greeting the room. A tall man named John handed the boss a hairnet and said, "Always keep it on. Manager checks." His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. The boss nodded and pulled it over his head properly. "Good," John said. "Now you look like one of us." As the minutes passed, the prep table grew busy. A large bin of potatoes appeared, then a crate of bell peppers. Maya called out small tasks with simple clarity. Ayan, after onions, do garlic. Kareem, finish potatoes. Lila, check that the labels on the sauces match the date. The system felt like a dance that everyone knew by heart. The boss kept slicing, his wrist growing warm from the repeating motion. He looked at the clock. It had only been 40 minutes, but it felt longer and fuller than most mornings. A supervisor stepped in, scanning the room with a quick gaze. He checked a clipboard, said hello, and kept moving. The boss watched him for a moment. The supervisor's steps were fast, like he was already late for something. He made a note in his mind. What can be done to reduce that hurry, that rush that lives in the body? Maya brought the boss a small cup of water. Sip, she said. Hydrate, or your head will spin later. He realized how easy it was to forget water when the air was cold and the tasks were hot. He sipped and returned to the board, moving to garlic now, learning the best way to press and cut without smashing it into a messy paste. Kareem leaned over and showed him a trick with the flat of the knife. The kitchen did not shout its wisdom. It whispered it, one small skill at a time. By 7:30, the narrow alley behind the restaurant filled with delivery trucks. The back door opened and closed, opening to the outside world with quick bursts of light. The boss helped unpack a delivery of fresh herbs. The smell of basil was bright like a summer field. He smiled at how alive it felt, even in a steel bowl under fluorescent lights. He thought about the people who would taste this basil later, in a pasta dish or a salad, and how they would never see the hands that prepared it before the sun was fully up. He made mistakes, small ones, and he felt each one stick in his chest. He cut the peppers too thick at first. He mislabeled one container with the wrong date, and Maya caught it and quietly handed him a new sticker. No worries, she said. Better to fix it in prep than in service. He appreciated the kindness and the standard working together. It was not soft or strict. It was both at the same time. The radio changed to a cheerful song that made Lila hum. She told a small story about her bus ride and how a child waved at the driver the whole way to school. For a few seconds, the kitchen felt like a family room. Then the hum of the dish machine rose. The supervisor returned with a new list, and the family room turned back into a workshop. The boss watched the clock again. Almost 8:30. He had already chopped 3 full containers of onions and 1 of garlic. He had learned where the towels lived and which bin was for compost. He had learned that Maya could sense a dull knife from across the room and that Kareem could carry 2 heavy cases without his face showing effort. He had learned that Lila's labels were always perfectly straight, like little flags of order in a fast river. A chef from the morning line arrived and tested a sauce on the stove. He checked the seasoning, added a pinch of salt, tasted again, and nodded. He greeted the team with an easy wave. "Thank you, Prep," he said. "You make us look good." It was a simple sentence, but the boss felt how it warmed the room. He wondered how many times he had said thank you to teams like this in emails, and how different it felt to say it out loud in the middle of the work. He kept moving, kept learning. He found that his shoulder grew tight when he chopped too high on the board. Kareem showed him how to lower his elbow and stand with his feet shoulder-width apart. "Save your body," Kareem said. "We do this every day." The boss nodded. He thought about the weeks and months, the years of motion hidden in each perfect dice of an onion. He thought about how success in a kitchen is made from 1,000 tiny, invisible acts. A small moment made him pause. Maya reached for a box cutter, and he noticed the blade was a little worn. It still worked, but it dragged slightly through the packing tape. She did not complain. She just pressed harder and opened the box. He wrote a quiet note in his mind. Small tools matter. Replace them before they break. A dull blade changes the day. By 9:30, the kitchen was loud. The walk-in door opened, and closed in quick beats. The floor squeaked under shoes. The printer at the expo station tested again, and people laughed lightly at the sound. "That little voice," Lila said. "Soon it will talk nonstop." The boss smiled and looked around. His hands smelled of lemon and garlic. His back felt the good ache of honest work. He had not checked a single email. He felt present in a way he had not felt in months. He noticed how people used their eyes to speak. A glance from Maya meant, "Slow down and do it right." A nod from Kareem meant, "You got it." A quick lift of the chin from the supervisor meant, "Move that. Box, please." The language of the kitchen was short and clear and built from trust. It impressed him more than any speech he had heard in a meeting room. During a short break, he stood by the back door with a paper cup of water. The morning had shifted from gray to gold, and he could hear a city bus stop and start on the far street. Maya joined him and asked, "Why here? Why kitchen prep?" He kept his cover story simple. "I wanted steady work," he said. "I like to learn with my hands." She nodded. "Good answer," she said. "This job teaches you to see. Most people only see the plate at the table. We see everything before that." Her words settled inside him like a new kind of truth. He finished his water and followed her back in. The clock slid past 10, and the kitchen's heartbeat changed. The soft prep rhythm turned into quick steps and short words. The boss, still Ayan to everyone, wiped his board and looked around for how he could help. Maya pointed to a tray of vegetables that needed roasting. "Light oil, even layers don't crowd the pan," she said. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands moved fast. He arranged the peppers and onions carefully and felt the warmth from the oven kiss his face when he opened the door. He set the timer and turned to the sink to wash his hands. The soap dispenser clicked and gave a tired puff of air. Empty. He pressed again. Still nothing. Next to the sink was a small bottle of dish soap that someone had placed there like a substitute. He made a note in his mind. Hand washing needed proper soap. That was the rule in training materials. He looked around for a refill. A metal cabinet near the mop sink was locked. He did not have the key. Near the grill, a young line cook in a black cap set up his station with quick, hopeful movements. "I'm Jules," he said when he noticed the new face. "First week on the line. You?" The boss smiled. "First day," he said. "I'm Ayan." Jules gave a small grin that showed both pride and nerves. He adjusted a thin kitchen towel on his shoulder and turned back to his pans. The towel had a small hole near the edge. The boss noticed it and kept the picture in his mind with the empty soap. The floor grew busier. A stack of rubber mats near the fryers had a curled corner that caught on shoes. Kareem stepped over it without looking down, like he had learned its shape long ago. The boss bent to flatten it, but the curl sprang back. Someone had tried to tape it in place, but the tape was peeling and gray from age. He pressed it again with his palm and thought about how a small edge could make a big fall. A printer at the expo station chirped and printed a test ticket, as if clearing its throat before a speech. The supervisor walked in at that moment. He was tall and neat with a sharp chin and a clipboard that matched his posture. "Rick, shift supervisor," the badge said. His eyes took a quick scan of the room and landed on the trays the boss had just loaded. "Who did the roast veg?" he asked. "I did," the boss said. Rick nodded without smiling. "Fine. Keep them moving. Lunch in 20. At the steam table, Lila frowned at a thermometer that hung from a hook. She clicked the button. The screen stayed blank. "Batteries?" she said to herself. Rick passed by and glanced at it. "Use the other one," he said. Lila lifted a second thermometer from a drawer. Its screen lit but flickered. "We go by feel," a line cook said with a half laugh. "You can tell when it's hot enough." The boss watched the joke land and then slide away. He had seen the safety rules. Check and log temperatures, the training said. A thermometer that only sometimes worked did not match the rule. He moved to help with salads, then backed up to avoid a pan. The grill let off a wave of heat that washed across his cheeks. Jules leaned forward to reach a saucepot at the back of the range. He used the thin towel to grab the handle, then pulled his hand back with a quick breath. Hot, he said with a shaky smile, shaking his fingers once. All good. He wrapped the towel twice and tried again. The boss saw the towel was thin like paper in some spots. He looked around for thick oven mitts. He saw one on a hook. The fabric was worn smooth, and the padding looked tired. He made a small note. Replace this. Replace all of these. The lunch push began with a small burst, then a steady pour. Tickets printed in a neat line. 2 chicken pesto, 1 veg delight, add soup, the expo read. Rick called, walking in, 2 chicken, 1 veg, 1 soup. The line cooks moved like a fast puzzle. Hands reached for pans and plates, voices kept time. The sound of a metal spatula against a grill made a bright, quick beat. The boss saw more small things. A drawer on the lowboy cooler would not close all the way. A torn black gasket hung like a tongue. A cook bumped it with his knee, and it snapped shut. A few minutes later, it sagged open again. Needs a new seal, the cook said. Been like that for a while. He slapped it closed and kept working. By the hand sink, a paper on the wall listed steps: wet hands, apply soap, scrub for 20 seconds, rinse, dry. Another paper had a chart for break times. He looked at the names and the lines drawn in pen. Each break slot had a question mark next to it. We'll see, someone had written. He watched Lila pass the hand sink and then keep going. I'll catch up on water later, she said to no one in particular. Her face looked focused and a little pale. The boss wanted to hand her a cup, but his hands were full of plates. He told himself, offer water when you can. The tickets kept coming. Orders built into a small mountain. Rick's voice grew sharp. We're dragging on table 12. Move, move! He did not shout, but his words were chopped thin. Jules missed a step and had to redo a plate. Rick was there. Eyes up. Don't make me call it twice. Jules nodded fast, cheeks pink. The boss felt a small ache behind his own eyes. He understood the rush, but he also saw the weight of it on a new cook's shoulders. In a corner cabinet, the first aid kit hung with a little green cross on the door. The boss opened it in a quiet moment to check a feeling. Inside were a few bandages, a roll of gauze, and a small tube of burn gel that felt light when he lifted it. The date on the gel was old. He shook it and put it back. He closed the door softly and promised to return to it later. When he turned, he saw Maya cleaning a slicer blade with careful strokes. Always cut-proof gloves, she told a newer prep cook, tapping a blue glove. The newer cook looked around. Only got large, she said, and she held up hands that were much smaller than the gloves, fingers floating in the fabric. She made it work by folding the fingertips, but the folds snagged on the blade guard. The boss stepped closer to help hold the guard steady. Thanks, the cook said. I asked for smalls, maybe next order. He returned to Jules's station to run a few plates to the pass. Jules moved with quick steps that covered too much. Ground. The grill crackled, the fryer hissed, and steam rolled up from a pot like a fog. Jules reached across another cook to grab a pan handle, and their elbows knocked. Nothing fell. No harm. But it was close. The boss thought about space and how little there was. Timer! Lila called. The roasted vegetables were ready. The boss slipped on a mitt and pulled the tray, then winced at the heat that soaked through the worn padding. He set the pan down and breathed out. We need thicker mitts, he told Maya quietly. She nodded with a small smile that did not reach her eyes. We've been asking, she said. Supply keeps saying they're on back order. Then they send more towels. Rick stood at the expo checking plates. He gave a small nod for each finished dish and tapped his pen. His attention on speed was clear. When Karim moved to refill the sanitizer bucket, he found the water had turned a pale gray, and the strip test color was faint. "New bucket," he said. He looked for fresh solution. The jug was low. "Where are the extras?" he asked. A dishwasher pointed to a shelf that was half empty. "Last case got delayed," the dishwasher said. "We stretch it till the truck comes." Karim changed the water anyway, using what was left. The boss watched and wished for a closet full of full jugs. A manager from the front poked his head in. "Team, we've got a big group at the door, 20 minutes out," he said. Rick nodded. "We can do it," he replied, "but I need plates faster." He looked at the boss. "Ayan, run these to the pass." The boss took the plates and moved quickly, careful to keep his elbows tight. He felt how easy it would be to bump someone and make a mess. He kept his focus and set them down with a steady hand. Another small red flag showed itself when a cook reached for a bottle of oven cleaner. The label was half peeled off. The safety sheet that should sit nearby was missing. "I know how to use it," the cook said, waving away a question. The boss thought about how safety lives in the open, in instructions on a wall, not in a single person's memory. The rush hit a peak at noon. The kitchen was a living thing with many arms. People talked with their hands, with quick eye contact, with the sound of a pan set down just so. Rick's voice pushed the pace like a drummer. "3 veg ready, fire 2 chicken, drop fries." A tiny cough came from Lila. She took a sip from a water bottle and kept moving. Maya passed the boss and whispered, "You're doing fine." Those 3 words were a small light in the noise. A short lull came at 12:30, the kind that feels like a held breath. Some people reached for water. The boss went back to the hand sink and tried the soap again, then looked around the corner. The metal cabinet was still locked. He spotted a key on a hook by the office door. No one was watching. He stepped over, lifted the key, and opened the cabinet. Inside were cleaning supplies and a box of soap refills. He smiled in relief, then stopped. Only 1 refill was left. He took it, loaded the dispenser, and felt a simple joy when thick soap came out smooth and blue. He closed the cabinet, hung the key back, and washed his hands for the full count. When he looked up, he saw a list taped on the side of a cooler. "No overtime this week." Under it, in pen, someone had written, "But we need people." Another note on the whiteboard said, "Cut last hour if slow." He watched a server ask Rick if he could step out early to make a class. "We're slammed," Rick said. "Ask." Again at 2. The server nodded and left, shoulders rounded. The fryer station made a soft popping sound as oil shifted with a new basket. Jules moved there to help. He scanned the tickets, lifted a... The afternoon slid forward in a gentle way that felt almost kind. The lunch rush had ended, the printer was quiet, and the kitchen took a long breath. "Reset for dinner," Rick said, and the team moved like a careful tide. The boss, still, Ayan to everyone, stacked clean pans, wiped the prep table, and helped Maya with a fresh batch of chopped herbs. The air smelled bright with lemon zest and basil. A light song on the radio floated above the soft scrape of knives and the hush of the walk-in door. It felt peaceful, like the calm before a storm that no one could see yet. Jules checked his station again, the same way a pilot walks around a plane before a flight. He wiped the grill, lined up his squeeze bottles, folded a new towel, and set a pan to preheat. He glanced toward the dining room and then back at the tickets from earlier, now pinned neatly in a done stack. "Dinner is bigger," he said to the boss with a small, steady voice, "but I like the rhythm." He looked proud and a little scared, the way a person looks when they are about to do something they care about. The boss noticed the mitt on the hook had not grown thicker by magic. The curled corner of the floor mat still caught on shoes. The first aid box still held a light tube of burn gel and not much else. He told himself to keep his eyes open and his hands helpful. He was here to learn. He was also here to care, even if no one knew who he was. At 3:30, a delivery arrived late. "We were meant to get this at 11, Karim said, opening a battered box of dry goods. Inside were gloves, paper towels, and a small pack of batteries. "Thermometer," Lila said with sudden hope. She pressed 2 new batteries into the flickering thermometer and smiled when the screen turned clear. "Okay," she said softly. "We can log real numbers again." The boss felt a little relief. A small fix mattered. By 4, the grill clicked and the fryer hummed. Servers polished silverware in the front. The line cooks lined up small prep cups like chess pieces. Rick went over the evening plan. "We have 2 large tables at 6:15 and 6:40. Keep the pass clear. Call times loud. Watch table 10. They always ask for extra sauce." His tone was brisk, meant to keep everyone on the same page. He checked his clipboard and tapped the edge with his pen, a little drum beat that seemed to set the pace. The first tickets of dinner came with the early birds, a soup, a salad, and 1 grilled special. Then, between 5 and 6, the kitchen, filled with sound and heat, as if someone had turned a dial from steady to fast. The printer rolled out long paper streams. Walking in, 2 grilled specials, 1 veg, 3 fries, Rick called, pointing to stations in a rhythm. "Yes, chef," the line answered, using the old habit of respect even though Rick was not the chef. It gave the moment shape. Jules worked with care. His movements had grown cleaner since the morning. He lifted a pan, set it down, checked a sear, and moved to the fryer for a drop. The boss ran plates to the pass to help. The air turned thick and warm around his face. Steam rose in soft white waves. The sound of a spatula meeting hot metal made a high, bright song. Maya passed behind the line with a tray of prepped vegetables. "Hot behind," she said, calm and clear. She placed the tray in the lowboy and stepped back. "Thank you," Jules said, keeping his eyes on his grill. He reached for a sauce pot that sat at the back, near a high flame. The handle stuck out, just a bit past the edge of the burner. He used the folded towel, the same thin one with soft spots, and lifted the pot forward to his station. What happened next arrived in a handful of seconds that felt longer than a minute. The towel slipped a little on the smooth metal handle. The pot wobbled. Jules corrected quickly, his wrist strong, and steadied it. But in that quick save, the edge of the pot brushed a thin stream of hot liquid toward his forearm. It was not a huge splash. It was a narrow line, fast and bright. It hit skin and ran down a few inches before it fell away. Jules inhaled with a sharp sound, a sound a person makes when a surprise pains them, but they try not to scare anyone else. His other hand set the pot down safely, a perfect cook's instinct, to protect the food and the station. Then he stepped back, eyes wide, mouth open, trying to pull air into a tight chest. His forearm turned a sudden pink, then deeper. He pressed his lips together and blinked hard. Water rose in his eyes. He did not cry loud. He did not move much. He just stood there, pain on his face like a light that could not be turned off. Boss felt his body go still. He froze in place, a tray in his hands, heavy and useless. Every small thing he had noticed all day converged into one clear picture. Thin towel, hot handle, no splash guard, worn mitt, late deliveries, a first aid box that should be full and was not. He wanted to move. He wanted to step forward and say, "Stop, help him, now." But for a few seconds, he did not move at all. His heart beat hard in his ears, and his thoughts felt like a hallway with too many doors. Maya was the first to lean in. "Run cool water," she said softly to Jules. "Now." She looked toward the hand sink. It was 3 steps away and open. Jules nodded and took a half step, then stopped, eyes flicking to the tickets at the pass and to Rick, who was watching the board. The printer chirped again, laying out a new line of orders like a challenge. "Keep going," Rick said, eyes still, on the tickets. His voice was not loud, but it was firm. "We can't drag the line. It's just a small mark." He pointed with his pen to the next item. "2 more specials. Call the times." Jules stood very still. His forearm had a wet sheen. He lifted his arm gently, like he could hold the pain away from his body if he just kept it off the rest of him. His eyes shone with tears that did not fall yet. He swallowed. "I'm okay," he said in a thin voice that did not sound like him. "I can do it." He reached for his tongs with his other hand. The boss finally moved. He set the tray down and stepped toward the first aid cabinet. He opened it like a person opens a door and hopes a friend is standing there. The gel was still there, small and almost empty. He picked it up and shook it. It made a dry sound. He looked for more and found none. He closed the door with the quiet click that now felt like a heavy clock. Maya, who had seen the same empty box earlier, grabbed a clean cloth, ran to the cooler, and held the cloth against a bag of ice until it was cold. "Here," she said to Jules, offering it. He took it with his unhurt hand and pressed it lightly to his forearm. Relief came like a cool breath. Tears gathered again and this time slid out quick and honest. He was not loud. He was not dramatic. He was a young man with a painful arm, who wanted to do his job well. His soft crying was the sound of a human heart meeting a hard place. Lila looked at Rick. "He needs water on it," she said. "It helps." Her voice was careful, respectful, but strong. Rick's jaw moved once, like he was chewing on a choice. He looked at the tickets, looked at Jules, then looked back at the tickets. "After we clear this wave," he said, "we can't stop the line." The boss felt the words hit the room like a dull weight. Kareem's eyes narrowed just a little, but he said nothing. He reached to help on the grill to buy Jules a moment. He flipped 2 items, set a pan, and moved back to his own station, making space without making noise. Jules nodded again, still holding the cool cloth, still blinking against tears. He tried to use the tongs with his other hand, his motions slower and less sure. The grill popped, and he stepped back half a step. "Call times," Rick said. "Focus. You're okay." His voice tried to cut the pain into a smaller shape. Boss's hands felt empty and full at the same time. He walked to the hand sink and turned the tap. Cool water ran clear and steady. He looked at Rick, then at Jules, then back at the water. Something simple inside him spoke in a calm voice that felt like Maya's, "Act with care." He picked up a fresh plastic cup, filled it, and set it on the edge of Jules's station. "If you can, pour this over your arm between plates," he said softly. It was not a formal fix. It was something. Jules nodded gratefully and tipped, a little water onto the skin. The water made a soft sound, and his shoulders eased a fraction. Guests laughed in the dining room. A server called, "Hot food coming through." The pass filled and then cleared, filled and then cleared. The kitchen moved on, the way a river moves around a rock and keeps going. The moment where it could have stopped for care had passed, and the team adapted, because that is what teams do when the pace does not ask for permission. The boss watched. Jules tried to smile at a joke from Kareem. He watched him angle his body to protect the hurt. He watched Rick write notes on the clipboard and tap the pen again. A quiet anger woke in the boss, not a fire that burned things, but a steady light that makes shadows show their true shapes. He thought of training slides that spoke of safety. First, of the company handbook's promise of care, of the cost of a minute against the cost of a person's trust. He stepped to the office door and looked in. A small binder sat on the shelf labeled Incident Log. He had seen these in many stores but rarely opened them. He lifted it now and flipped to today. Blank lines, no notes, no mention of a burn. He closed the binder gently and set it back. He did not sign his name. Not yet. He returned to the line and picked up a towel. The rush eased, as rushes always do. The printer's voice grew softer. People's shoulders loosened. Jules set his tongs down and finally moved to the hand sink. He ran cool water over his arm for a long half-minute, eyes closed, forehead leaning briefly against his forearm. The pink on his skin was steady. The cool water. The evening moved forward with a steady buzz. The first wave after the burn had slowed, and everyone took small, careful breaths as they reset. The boss, still using the name Ayan, picked up a clean towel and wiped the prep table in slow, even lines. He did not want to make a big show of anything. He only wanted to act with care and see what the kitchen would do next. Jules stood a little apart, holding the cool cloth against his forearm and watching the grill like a friend who had just scared him. Maya stood close by, not hovering, but ready. Rick checked the board and marked a few notes on his clipboard. His face showed focus, not meanness, but there was a narrow line between his eyebrows that had not been there in the morning. He looked at the clock, then at the dining room, then back to the board. "Okay," he said in a flat tone. "Next push at 6:15. Be ready. Keep it tight." The air felt warmer now. The smell of heat and herbs mixed with a soft sweetness from a dessert station that had just set up a tray of fruit. Lila refilled the water bottle near the pass and took 3 quick sips. She offered it to Jules, who took a careful drink with his good hand. "Thank you," he whispered. He tried a small smile. His eyes still looked shiny, but his voice was steadier. The boss moved toward the small office to check something that had rested in his mind like a pebble in a shoe. He pulled the binder marked Safety and Training and opened it on the counter. Inside were printed sheets for new hire training, equipment checks, and daily logs. Some pages were filled with neat signatures and dates. Others had blank lines that waited for names that never came. The thermometer check sheet had gaps for the past week. The break schedule page had lines with names and then a single pen mark across them, like a thought that had been erased. He looked at a section titled First Aid and Incident. The last filled line was from 3 months ago. A small cut, a bandage given. He closed the binder gently and felt a quiet ache. The kitchen worked hard every day, but the book did not show the full truth of the work. He found Maya by the walk-in and asked in a soft voice, "Has this happened before?" He did not say the word burn. He did not need to. Maya's eyes were kind and honest. "Small things," she said. "People rush. Hands meet heat. Blades slip. Mostly we manage fast. We help each other. We learn. But sometimes a person keeps working when they should stop." She looked toward the line. "They don't want to let the team down." She kept her voice respectful. She did not blame anyone. She simply named the shape of the day. The boss nodded slowly. "Do you report it?" he asked. Maya made a small face that was not a frown, more like a question. "Sometimes," she said. "We're told to, but the board fills, and then we forget. Or we think it was small, and we don't want to make it a big thing." She paused. "It should be a big thing," she added, very softly. Then she went back to work, because the food does not prep itself. At 6, the dining room filled like a sudden tide. The printer began to speak in long lines. Walking in, 4 specials, 2. "Soup, 1 salad," Rick called, his pen tapping. "Fire the fries." The line answered in short, calm words. The music on the radio faded in their ears, replaced by the rhythm of the kitchen. Pans met flame. Tongs clicked. Plates slid across the pass like bright boats on a river. Jules returned to the grill. His stance was careful. He used his unhurt hand for the heaviest moves and his hurt arm only for light tasks. He kept the cool cloth near his station and poured a little water now and then, the way the boss had suggested. He did not want to be a problem. He wanted to be strong for the team. The boss saw that and wished he did not have to prove anything, at all. A small near miss woke the room for a breath. The curled corner of the floor mat caught the boss's shoe as he carried a tray past the fryer. He stumbled half a step, kept the tray level, and found his balance again. Kareem's hand hovered near a pan, ready to help if needed, but the tray stayed steady. No spill, no mess, just a flash of the truth. A small curl can become a big fall. The boss set the tray down and pressed the mat again with his palm. The curl lifted back like a stubborn page. He told himself with a clear inner voice that this was not a detail to write later. It was a detail to remove. He turned to Rick and spoke in a calm, steady tone. "Can we swap this mat now?" he asked, not challenging, just practical. "It keeps catching shoes." Rick looked at the tickets, then at the mat, then at the tickets again. "After the wave," he said, like a reflex. The boss nodded once. "I'll hold it flat for now," he said. He set a small pan across the edge, to keep it down without blocking the path. It was a quick fix, not a full fix, but it helped. The wave grew. The printer talked without stopping. The line moved like a single body with many helpful hands. Rick called times. 3 minutes on table 10, 2 on 12. Lila checked the thermometer and logged numbers, her pen flying. Kareem juggled. 2 stations to cover a gap, while another cook stepped for a breath. Maya floated like a quiet guide, dropping what each person needed before they asked. The boss ran plates, refilled a garnish, washed a board, and kept his mind open. Jules stayed steady until a new order asked for a pan finish he had not done often. He reached back for a small skillet that lived near a high flame. The handle was metal and hot. He used the thin towel again, because that is what was near his hand. He lifted, moved, and set the pan. This time, no liquid spilled, but when he set it down, he paused. His breath was short again. His face showed a quiet fear. He tried to hide. The boss felt a quiet, clear line rise inside him. It was the line between making it work and taking care. He moved to Rick's side and spoke in a firm, respectful voice that did not shake. "He needs 5 minutes now," he said. "Run cool water. Put a clean wrap on it. I'll stand on his. Station with Kareem for 5 minutes. We will not drag." He kept his tone simple, like a fact, not a fight, a choice. Rick looked at him, surprised. He did not expect a trainee to speak like that. He glanced at the tickets, then at Jules, then at Kareem. Kareem gave a tiny nod, the kind that says, "I can cover." Maya was already holding a fresh wrap and a small bag of clean ice. Rick made a small sound in his throat, a half sigh. Then he nodded once. 5, he said, tapping his pen. "Go." The boss stepped into Jules's spot with Kareem. Kareem took the hot side. The boss handled the calls and the small moves. They moved like a team that had trained together, even though it was their first day as a pair. It felt good. Not because it proved anything, but because it allowed something right to happen in a busy moment. Jules ran water over his arm at the hand sink, eyes closed, shoulders softening with each second. Maya wrapped the cool cloth in clean gauze and placed it gently. "Breathe," she said. "You're okay." Lila wrote a quick note on a small pad. Time, help given, names. She stuck it under the incident binder, not yet filed, but ready. The board stayed under control. Kareem flipped and finished with quiet skill. The boss kept his hands steady and his words short. 2 up, 1 walking. Reset pans. When Jules returned, 5 minutes later, his face was calmer. He said, "Thank you," to the group in a voice that held both relief and pride. He took his station back, and the line slid into its shape again. When there was a tiny break, the boss walked to the office. He opened the incident log binder and wrote a clear, simple note. Time, station, cause, hot handle, thin towel, steps taken, cool water, clean wrap, assistance, monitoring, and follow-up needed. New mitts, splash guard, check towels, replace mat, refill first aid. He did not sign with his real name. He used Ion because that was the truth of today. But he wrote with the weight of who he really was. The next hour brought the second large table, a birthday song from the front, and a gentle laugh from the team when a candle blew out early and had to be relit twice. The kitchen felt human again, not only fast. Rick's voice lost its sharp edge. He even said good save to Kareem under his breath when a pan almost kissed the edge of the pass. Kareem nodded once and kept moving. After the peak, Rick called a 2-minute huddle. They stood by the prep table in a loose circle, hands on hips, towels over shoulders, a little steam still rising from their heads like soft halos. Good work, Rick said. His voice was tired but honest. We kept times. Let's clean and reset. Watch table 12 for dessert. He started to turn away. Then the boss spoke up, careful and brief. Can we add a small safety step now? He asked. 1 minute. Everyone says one thing we need tonight and we write it. He held up a dry erase marker he had picked up from the office. He did not push, he invited. Rick considered. The room waited. Then Rick shrugged a tiny shrug. 1 minute, he said. Go. Maya said, thicker mitts. Lila said, hydration cups at the pass. Kareem said, replace the curled mat. Jules, voice low but clear, said, a splash guard if we can. The boss wrote each item on a small whiteboard near the office door. He added in neat letters, first aid refill and training refresh. He looked at Rick, who read the list and nodded once. I'll send this up tonight, Rick said, and I'll mark the mat for maintenance. The mood in the room shifted by a hair. No one cheered, but shoulders moved a little higher. Small voices had made real lines on a board. The boss saw the change and held it in his heart like a small, warm light. They returned to work. The printer spoke now and then, not like a storm, more like a friendly bell. The boss caught Rick straightening the safety poster and pressing the tape ha. The next morning, he arrived even earlier. The sky was still gray, and the parking lot lights made soft circles on the ground. He carried 2 bags in his hands. One bag held new thick mitts, cut-proof gloves in different sizes, and fresh first aid supplies. The other bag held extra hand soap refills, batteries for thermometers, a roll of bright tape, and a small laminated sign he had made late at night. He stood by the back door for a quiet second, then pushed it open and stepped inside. The kitchen smelled like cool metal and fresh lemons again. The dish machine hummed its morning song. Maya was already there, tying her apron with calm hands. She looked up and smiled the way she always did. Morning, Ayan, she said. He smiled back, feeling both the name on his badge and the name in his heart. Morning, Maya, he said. He set the bags on the prep table and took a deep breath. Before we start, he said softly, I need to tell you something. His voice carried across the quiet kitchen. Kareem paused in the middle of sharpening a knife. Lila turned from the labels. Jules came in at that moment and stopped with his backpack still on one shoulder. I am not just a trainee, he said. My name is not only Ayan. I am the boss of this restaurant group. I came here to learn, and yesterday I learned a lot. I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. I wanted to see the real day. He watched their faces carefully. Surprise rose first, then worry, then a kind of careful hope. He did not rush. He let the truth sit in the room like a chair someone had pulled out for a guest. Jules' eyes grew wide. He looked down at his arm, then back at the boss. Maya's face did not change much, but her eyes softened in a way that said she understood why he had come. Karim stood straight, knife in hand, and gave a small nod as if saying, "All right, now show us what you will do." The boss lifted the first bag and placed thick mitts on the hook by the line. He put new cut-proof gloves on the shelf in small, medium, and large. He opened the first aid box and filled it with burn gel, bandages, wraps, and a new eye wash. He clicked a thermometer, put in fresh batteries, and watched the numbers shine bright. He refilled the hand soap and left 2 extra cartridges in the unlocked cabinet with a note that said, "Use any time. We will keep more coming." He held up the small laminated sign. It was simple and clear. It said, "Stop and help. First rule, cool water first, clean wrap, ask for coverage, no one is left alone." He taped it near the hand sink and one more by the office door. The words felt good in the air, like a new pattern for the day. "I want to say something about yesterday," he continued, looking at Jules first. "You were hurt. You kept working because you care. You should not have had to choose between pain and pace. That is on me. I am sorry." His voice stayed steady, but there was feeling in it. "Today, you will go to the clinic after morning prep. We will pay for it. You will have the day off with pay to rest. If the doctor says you need more time, we will give it. You did your job. Now we will do ours." Jules' mouth opened like he might say no, like he did not want to be the cause of trouble. Then he closed it and nodded. "Thank you," he said quietly. He looked relieved in a way that made the boss's chest loosen. The general manager stepped in from the back door, planning to do a normal check, and stopped when he saw the scene. "What's going on?" he asked carefully. The boss turned to him and said, "Let's have a short huddle." He waved the team into a circle at the prep table. The morning was still early. There was time to talk and still be ready. He spoke in simple words. "Here's the plan. We will do a safety minute at the start of every shift and before every rush. One person will share one safety check. We will write it on the whiteboard. We will fix what we can today and schedule what needs more time. Today we fix the mat. We fix the cooler gasket. We replace worn towels and mitts. We place a splash guard by the fryer. We refresh training on burns, cuts, and sanitizer. We protect breaks. We keep real soap at every hand sink. We make sure the thermometer works and stays with fresh batteries." He looked at Rick, who had just walked in and heard most of it. Rick's face was set in its usual focus, but his eyes showed the weight of yesterday. The boss did not want to shame him. He wanted to change the pattern. "Rick," he said in a level voice, "yesterday you kept the pace. Today you will keep the people. When someone is hurt, you stop the line for 2 minutes. You ask for coverage, you log it, you make sure care happens first. If we serve a plate 2 minutes later but protect a person, that is success." Rick swallowed, nodded, and said, "Yes." He looked at Jules and added, "I'm sorry I did not stop right away." It was a short sentence, but it was honest. Jules nodded back, forgiveness already on his face, because that is who he was. The boss asked Maya to lead the first safety minute. She lifted the thick mitt from the new hook and said, "Use this for hot handles. If you can't find one, ask. Do not use a thin towel for a hot pan. Count to 3 in your head before you move it. Give your brain a moment to check your hands." She showed the grip. She showed where the mitts now lived. She placed one mitt on Jules's station, as if crowning a useful tool. Karim added a tip about stance and space. "Feet shoulder width, elbows close," he said. "Say behind hot if you pass with heat. We give each other space. We do not reach across." He looked at the floor mat. The curled one had been swapped for a flat one from dry storage by the night crew after the note on the board. The boss smiled and wrote, "Mat replaced. Thank you," on the whiteboard in a neat hand. Lila showed the thermometer with fresh batteries and said, "Log every 2 hours. If it flickers, tell me. I have more batteries." She held up a small box like a trophy. The team chuckled softly. It felt good to laugh again. It felt like strength. When the huddle ended, the boss took Rick into the office for a quick one-on-one. He kept his voice even, not sharp. "You run a tight shift. I respect that," he said. "But safety is not a side rule. It is the rule. I want you to lead this change. I will help you. We will add one extra person on the line for peak hours this week so that coverage is always possible. We will adjust labor to match reality, not just the sheet." Rick stood a little taller. "Understood," he said. "I can do that." The boss called the maintenance line and asked for a gasket replacement the same day. He ordered 2 splash guards and sent a message to the supply team to priority ship thick mitts to every location by the weekend. He scheduled a 30-minute safety refresh on video for all shifts, with an in-person practice led by Maya, who knew how to teach with calm hands. Service began, and it felt different. The printer still talked, the pans still sang, but something gentle sat in the room with the heat. People said, "Behind hot," more clearly. Mitts found hands before handles. Water cups sat at the pass, filled and easy to grab. The new sign by the hand sink caught the eye each time someone washed up. It was simple and kind. Mid-morning, Jules finished prep, and the boss walked him to a ride to the clinic. "Text me after you see the doctor," the boss said. He gave him a small card with a number that led straight to his office. "If you need anything, call. No one loses pay for this." Jules nodded, shoulders less tight than the night before. "I never thought I'd talk to you like this," he said, voice small with wonder. The boss shook his head. "We are a team," he said. "Titles are just jackets we wear. Care is the work." Back in the kitchen, a small moment tested the new rule. A cook at the fryer felt a tiny splash of oil on her wrist. She pulled back, said, "Hot," and stepped to the hand sink. Before she could ask, Karim took her station for a minute, and Lila handed her a cool wrap like it was the most normal thing in the world. The line never dragged. The world did not end. The new pattern held. Near noon, the general manager returned with a maintenance tech. The cooler gasket was replaced in 10 minutes. The door closed with a firm seal that made everyone cheer a little. The sound was silly and pure, like a team happy about a simple click. The tech also installed a slim splash guard by the fryer. It took 15 minutes and changed the look of the corner. The boss felt gratitude move through his chest in a warm wave. He wrote, "Splash guard installed, thank you," on the board. During a quiet minute, he opened the incident log binder and added a new first page. It was a simple checklist with 3 lines. What happened? Care done. Follow up. At the bottom, he added, "How did we protect the person and the line?" He wanted the book to teach, not just record. He left a pen on a string so it would never go missing. He placed the binder on a shelf that was easy to reach, not hidden in a drawer. He also left a small envelope for each person with a note inside. It said, "Thank you for your work. Thank you for your care. If you have ideas to make this kitchen safer and kinder, share them with me or Maya. Your voice matters." There was a small meal gift card in each envelope. It was not large, but it said, "I see you." As the day moved on, he noticed how the room's sound had changed. The rush still rose and fell, but the edges were softer. Rick called times with a tone that felt focused, but less tight. He even said, "Water break, 30 seconds now," before the dinner push, and 3 people stepped to the side, drank, and smiled. It took half a minute. It gave back 10. In the early evening, Jules came back with a clean wrap and a doctor's note. "First-degree burn," he said. "I need to rest it a day or 2. Cream, cool water, no heat." He looked guilty again, as if rest was wrong. The boss